Ever since GTA 6 was first revealed to us back in December of 2023, a question that I've had along with probably a good chunk of other fans of this franchise is whether or not a romance story, and one that is between the two main characters at that, would work in the context of a GTA game. So today I'm gonna attempt to answer that based on Rockstar's prior games and their stories, what this could mean for GTA 6, what are some of the benefits that it could bring to the game, and of course any potential downsides. So let's just get right in. Obviously, romantic relationships have played a role in many of the prior games, going as far back as GTA 3 back in 2001, as the whole plot of that game is Claude's revenge arc against Catalina, his former lover and partner in crime, after she betrays him in the opening scene of the game. Later on in the story, Claude technically starts another relationship with Maria, who was Salvatore's wife, before she decided to run away with him and Asuka, although that relationship can hardly be called a romance arc. Moving forward, in 2004, GTA San Andreas introduced an entirely new mechanic around having different girlfriends that you can find around the map and attempt to impress, each of them having a certain preference for how CJ looks, dresses, what car he drives, and where they like to be taken to during dates. There was even a relationship meter in the form of a progress bar, which increased the more successful dates you went on, and you could even earn access to new outfits and cars if you reached the maximum progress. This was more of a fun gimmick and another one of San Andreas' many different elements of RPG that made the game very entertaining rather than being a key element of the story, as Denise Robinson is the only girlfriend you unlock naturally if you focus solely on the story mode. Moving on to one of Rockstar's most underrated games in the entire franchise, which is GTA Vice City Stories, this game actually has one of the most fleshed out romance arcs between two characters, or more specifically one that involves the protagonist. Victor and Luis's relationship starts out pretty early on in the story, as they bond over their tough situations, and after Vic takes out Marty, Luis becomes even more involved in his life. Although, unlike San Andreas, you can't really take her out on dates, outside of one mission where you participate in a race together, and all of their interactions happen only during cutscenes. However, this relationship, like many other things in Victor's life, ended up very tragically, with Luis dying towards the end of the game. But, like I said earlier, it is one of the only romantic relationships that felt somewhat believable and was a key element in Victor's story. It showed him that he focused on the wrong things, and he even expresses that to Diaz during the final mission, though he doesn't really take him seriously.
You're a hero!
No, I'm an asshole. I spent all my time running around making morons rich while my family fell apart and the woman I wanted died waiting for me to call.
Woman, you need some porn?
Moving on to the HD universe, both GTA 4 and GTA 5 show this aspect from a multitude of points of view. Nico and his initial relationship with Michelle/Karen, who turned out to be an undercover IA agent, then later on with Kate McCreary, who Nico sort of develops romantic feelings for, though their relationship looked more platonic than anything else. Since you can choose to not interact with her at all during the free roam, her relationship with Nico can feel, and for the most part is, quite underdeveloped, as things never really go anywhere, and she mostly plays the part of representing what Nico aspires to, a normal life instead of being involved in the criminal underworld. Her death meant that Nico failed her, and his hope for that normal life partially died along with her. Despite the ending not feeling quite as sad as the deal ending where Roman dies, it does have an impact on Nico's character and his development. We also have Johnny Klebitz, who is one of the most interesting cases we've looked at so far, because his relationship with Ashley throughout the story of his DLC, and then very briefly into GTA 5, showed us an amazing example of what remaining in a toxic relationship can lead to. And despite what many people think of Trevor's introduction, where he just stomps Johnny's head with his boot like he's a nobody, it really solidified his downfall post the events of the DLC, and why choosing to not cut out Ashley out of his life for good was his biggest mistake. Not exactly the kind of romance arc many people would hope to experience, but one that is rooted in the harsh reality of that life, and hopefully not what we're gonna see in GTA 6 with Jason and Lucia, but you never know. Finally, moving on to GTA 5, here we have another unique perspective on romantic relationships, most notably with Michael and Amanda, who by 2013 have been a married couple for over 2 decades and even had 2 kids. The married man life, living in Rockford Hills, is quite a night and day difference to what we've just talked about earlier regarding Johnny and Ashley. Michael's relationship with Amanda and the many things he goes through during his part of the story is also a very interesting arc to analyze. By the time the story mode takes place, they have long since grown apart from each other after repeatedly being unfaithful to one another, but not having the option to divorce and separate because of their circumstances. 2 of the major plot points in Michael's arc both involve Amanda in some way. Firstly, because he wanted to get back at Amanda's tennis coach, he pulls down Martin Madraza's house by accident, thinking it belonged to the coach, which inevitably pulls him back into the game, contacting Lester about a potential robbery to get the necessary cash for the mansion repairs, which, as we all know, triggers an entire sequence of events, as this causes Trevor to find out about Michael, and we all know the rest. But another major point in Michael's arc is later when his angry outbursts against Fabian, Amanda's yoga instructor, causes her to finally be fed up and leave him along with Tracy and Jimmy, which sets Michael on a journey as he attempts to make amends to her and bring his family back to their home. An arc that ends up being successful, but not before a quick trip to Dr. Friedlander's office, a rather heated visit.
You are such a fucking animal, a deranged animal!
Besides from Michael and his rather complicated relationship with Amanda, Franklin also has a romantic subplot with Tanisha, who we know was his girlfriend when they were younger, but she left him wanting to get away from the dangers of the gang life, which both Franklin and Lamar were involved in for so many years. Throughout this story, he attempts many times to win her over, promising that he will change and showing off his accomplishments. However, she repeatedly rejects him, each time reminding him that she's not chasing wealth, but rather a normal life, even telling him that she's getting married to a doctor, which we know didn't happen, because her and Franklin are married many years later as shown in GTA Online. Now, whether she married that man and then later divorced him to get back with Franklin, or maybe she had a sudden change of heart off screen and reconciled with him, that part is still relatively unknown. Now, this particular dynamic doesn't quite make much sense, at least to me, and it seems that even the writers for GTA Online didn't really go into details about how and why she had this sudden change of heart. So for now, it remains a bit of a mystery. If I were to base my prediction on whether or not Rockstar can write romance stories based on the GTA games alone, I wouldn't exactly be very hopeful for something truly heartbreaking or emotional. And that is exactly why we need to quickly go over both of the Red Dead Redemption games, because to me at least, that is where Rockstar have really showcased their writing skills and that they can in fact write a romance story. We see John Marston going on a long and wild adventure forced by circumstances that he cannot control to work with the government and hunt down his former gang members in exchange for his family. And after what felt like an amazing thrill ride, John, Abigail and Jack are finally reunited, though not for very long as Edgar Ross decides to take down John and claim the final trophy for his display. John and Abigail's relationship in RDR1, although very brief, is a bit similar to that of Michael and Amanda's, where they have been a family for many years. However, in this case, it made them grow closer. In Red Dead Redemption 2, we also see Arthur as he meets up with Mary Linton again after many years in which they were out of each other's lives. And if you choose to engage with her optional missions, we really see what Mary meant to Arthur in all of those years they were together.
Is it too late for us, Arthur?
I can't lie to you. I'm a wanted man, Mary. If anyone close to me, well, they're wanted to, and I can't have you wrapped up in there.
Run away with me, Arthur. Run away right now and don't look back.
I want to. More than anything, I want to. But I've got some people I need to take care of.
The best romantic relationship Rockstar has made so far is definitely the one between John and Abigail, which is further developed in the epilogue of RDR2, where we see them trying to live a normal life. We see the ranch being built and how John attempted to get everything done by the book, but most importantly, John's proposal to Abigail, which is one of the most emotional moments in this game.
You... Will you marry me?
So, can Rockstar write romance? I'd say they can definitely do a pretty good job, but can they do it in a game like GTA though? Especially considering the difference in the approach to the narrative in comparison to games from the Red Dead Redemption series. Now that remains to be seen, but I'm pretty hopeful based on what we've seen so far. And also, thanks to the leaks from back in September of 2022, we know some extra details about how Lucia and Jason's relationship is supposed to play out even outside of the story mode. Rockstar themselves have made it very, and I mean very clear that Lucia and Jason form a couple trying to survive in a world that is against them, landing themselves in the darkest side of the sunniest state in America, forced to rely on each other if they want to make it out. It's also interesting to know the difference in their character descriptions. Jason wants the easy life, while Lucia wants the high life. What's even more interesting is a paragraph from Jason's description which reads, "Meeting Lucia could be the best or worst thing to ever happen to him." To me, this reads as a difference in how Jason and Lucia see where the relationship is headed, and I have zero doubt that their dynamic in the story will be rocky at times, with conflicts as to where they want to see themselves at the end of the story, which will be very interesting to see. Also, another thing that was made very evident from the trailers is that the story will focus on their intimate moments as a couple, as we see them holding hands, chilling at Jason's house, going out for drinks, dancing at the club, robbing stores, and even going for coffee. so we can already expect a much different story than anything we've seen from this franchise, and in that regard, I'm very excited to see how it all plays out and where it all eventually leads to. Personally, I'm more excited for this game because it seems to have addressed one of GTA 5's biggest issues in regards to the story as well as gameplay, which was the addition of 3 whole protagonists. Now, don't get me wrong, each of them are likable or fun to play with for different reasons, but I, as well as many other people, felt that it took away from each of them as individual characters, and that all of their arcs likely had to be cut short at times to balance the story between the 3 of them. This is where I believe GTA 6 solves the problem, not only because cutting out one protagonist evenly spreads out the screen time between 2 characters, but because they form a romantic couple and likely live together for most of the game's story, you can focus more on their dynamic, and they can work together in more scenarios. From what we've seen in the leaks, Jason and Lucia's couple dynamic plays a major role in the open world, probably just as much as it does in the story. And that is where this game has the potential to be truly unique and revolutionizing, because aside from character hangouts between the protagonists, getting them all or 2 of them together didn't really mean much in the free roam. You could just go for some drinks, learn a bit about their backstories, and get into police chases if you really wanted to. If we're going from the Hank's Waffle Diner video alone, it seems that Rockstar has worked quite a lot on this aspect and truly making better use of the multiple protagonist mechanic. Since I don't want my channel to get erased from the face of the earth, I won't show you any footage, but in the same clip, we can see a tap R1 to check in with Jason or hold for more options prompt appearing on the screen, and a bunch of other interactions with not just Jason but the NPCs, similar to RDR2 but likely expanded upon. Being able to get your partner to actually help out during robberies and being able to give them commands is essentially a form of playing as both of them at once. Well, kind of. And now for the most interesting part of the conversation, also extracted from the leaks, is the relationship meter, or whatever it may end up being called in the game, which had 4 distinct scenarios: pragmatic cool, pragmatic chaotic, and romantic cool / romantic chaotic. Now, is this gonna play out like in RDR2, where doing dishonorable acts lowers the bar and doing the opposite increases it? Who knows? But that's probably what this is about. A relationship meter could be an interesting way to change the trajectory of the story based on your choices and actions in the open world. As for how this relationship meter could be influenced, well, you can probably take a few educated guesses. I'm sure that if Jason decides to go on a quick trip to a local club, that might not be well received by Lucia. But even outside of that, if you happen to injure your partner, abandon them during a robbery, or decide to not show up for a planned date, this could lead to the bar dropping. We don't know yet for certain if this is actually going to be a thing, but it definitely would be a missed opportunity if it was scrapped out of the game, because this would make the game much more immersive and offer a ton of replaying value. I definitely think that Rockstar made the right call to give us 2 protagonists this time around, for the reasons I already mentioned, but also because the multiple protagonist path is still heavily underutilized even in GTA 5. You have to remember that Rockstar gave us the ability to switch between 3 protagonists that live in different parts of the map, at least early on in the story, all with their unique special abilities. It was a very impressive technical achievement for that time, and it still feels that way even to this day. This is even more impressive when you remember the fact that GTA 5 released for the PS3 and Xbox 360 back in 2013, a console generation that is dozens of times less powerful than even the Xbox Series S, so you can only imagine how much more can be done with the massive upgrade in hardware between the 2 games. Now, are there any downsides to the romance plot between Lucia and Jason? Right now it's pretty hard to tell, unless they somehow end up writing the game in a way that gives us the same problem that GTA 5 had, where one of the protagonists outshines the other and leaves them underdeveloped as a character, then maybe there are downsides. And to answer the question from the beginning of the video, as to whether a romance story, more specifically one between the 2 protagonists, can work or not in the context of a GTA game, my answer is that it could definitely work, if of course done right. Rockstar themselves teased a somewhat serious and dark theme to the story, despite the setting being a parody version of modern Miami and Florida as an extent. There are so many possibilities for how the story can go and where it can ultimately lead to, but for now that remains a mystery. This question could be answered by the upcoming extended look, whatever that means, coming up on August 27th. Besides the obviously much needed gameplay reveal, which absolutely all of us have been starving for, it could also give us a somewhat spoiler-free look into how Jason and Lucia's dynamic looks like, how it plays out for the story, the open world gameplay, and what to expect for when the game releases in November. Fortunately for us, it's not that long of a wait anymore. But what do you think? What are your expectations from the gameplay as well as the story mode when it comes to a romantic dynamic between the main characters? Are you excited for it, or would you have preferred if the game was more similar to either of the previous games? Let me know in the comment section down below, and while you're there, also leave a like, and of course, consider subscribing if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching.